Okay, welcome, Tory, to the Fast Five, the online series dedicated to getting your burning health questions answered fast. And this is not the first episode, but this is the second episode ever, Fast Five. So I'm really glad that you're here and you're doing it with me. And today we're going to talk about fun and play. And we're going to do it because, as you know, play and fun are a huge part of health, but we don't really talk about it. And as adults, we kind of don't know how to have it, which is why my good friend Tory Dube is here to teach us how to do it because somewhere along the line we forgot. So the reason why Tory gets to tell us about this is because Tory has a very interesting bio that I'm going to read because it was recently updated and she's my friend, not my business partner. So I don't have this memorized. So here we go. Tory Dube left her career in executive coaching, business development, digital marketing, and public relations due to computer fatigue and a deep feeling of disconnection. I remember that. And from the remote island of Boca del Toro in Panama to Children's Museum in Minnesota to center stage in New York City, she experienced firsthand the lasting and transformative power of curiosity, creativity, and connection. As the creative director of Curious Kids and a certified holistic nutritionist, life coach, and hypnotherapist, Tory is guiding children and adults alike to tap into their inherent gifts through nature, movement, positive psychology, and expressing creativity. So, Tory, welcome.
Thank y'all.
Now, before we dive in, I was hoping that, given your bio, that you would share with us why fun and play is something that is really important and interesting to the work that you do.
So fun and play are at the core of the work I do. To me, you sent me questions ahead of time. I admittedly read the first one and was like, well, we'll wing the rest. But I know what the first one's going to be at least. And we can discuss that in length in a minute. But to me, there's a distinction between fun and joy. And so fun, I'm not a language expert here, but to me, how I conceptualize fun is it's an adjective to describe something outside of myself, where joy is a state within me. And once I figured out that, like, I was accidentally falling in joy when I was doing exercise that made me really happy with a group of people, or when I was surfing, or when I was beating, or I was accidentally falling into joy. And then once I realized that because it's a state, it's something I can curate within myself alone in a room with my eyes closed, realizing that so much of my power came from that space. Like, I imagine when I'm tapped into joy, like, my insides are expanded and I have access to intuition, to my creativity, to my innovation. And to me, I feel like I'm just like living right on the edge of who I'm constantly becoming. And to me, that's where I want to live. So joy for me is at the epicenter of everything I do. It doesn't mean that I'm just out like dancing and throwing flowers all day. My work is to show people just like me, who are doing things outside of themselves, how to curate that feeling of expansion, of that innovation, of being tapped in, turned on, whatever we want to call it, in the things that they're already doing. You start there. And then you're going to get a lot of feedback along the way, these inspired ideas that will help you pivot and test and tweak and to get closer and closer and closer to a life. I wouldn't say of effortless joy, because the human experience is surely varied and we need the darkness to realize the light, but of a lot more joy.
I love that. And I personally have learned so much from you about all this stuff because, as Tory knows, I used to really love grinding and hustling and doing all of that, and realizing through a lot of, if it wasn't your teachings pointing me in directions of people to follow or things to read or whatever, to understand that at the core of what we do, we should really have joy towards it. And if there's certain things, right, that like aren't joyful, and their life will surely make sure that you experience sadness and darkness. But when we do things, the majority of the time, it should bring us some sort of joy, or at least the end goal should be sure to bring us more joy. And I think a lot of times we forget that. And we also forget that fun is one of the primary ways in which we can find joy. And I think as adults, and I know, we forget how to do it, which brings me to the first question of the Fast Five. So you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. And you kind of answered it, but want I want you to expand upon it a little bit because I like the way the question was phrased. So the first question is, what's the difference between joy and fun? And I want to put some context in it because the person who asked it, I thought did a really it was really lovely how the question was contextualized. And it was that when I write cards to people, it's joyful, but I don't know what fun is. So what do you see as the primary difference between the two?
So I'm going to stick with my definition I just gave, that fun is an adjective to describe something outside of ourselves, and joy is a state that we can curate whether we're doing something fun or not. So when something is fun, 99% of the time we feel joy, but we can feel joy even when we're doing something that's not fun. So I'll give an example. I have a client that I am consulting for, and about 80% of what I'm consulting on gives me deep fulfillment and joy. But there's another 20% that I just don't love. And so I was throwing a little stink fit yesterday. I'm like, I don't like that part. And then I was like, wait, I control this shit. So I just reframed it and found the joy within it for me, which in this situation was, I love serving. I love helping people. That is it. I curated that joy. Is that thing fun? Do I like talking about that 20%? No, I don't at all. But if I can curate that state of joy within myself, then it's joy. So I still, I think their Venn diagrams overlap. Actually, no, that's not a good way to say it, because I think you, like I said, okay, if you're having fun, you're probably feeling joy, but you don't necessarily have to be having fun to feel joy.
And I like well, actually, first, my dog wants to be let in. So 1 second.
Please come on in. He can talk to my dog who's laying under my desk.
He is my shadow currently. So dumpster trucks, things of that nature, it happens. So the reason I like what you said and why I think it's really important is I think as adults, like we want to feel joy all the time, but fun is the quickest way. And I think in order to learn some of those feelings, if you don't want to sit in a meditation and learn it from your body initially, having fun will teach you what that feels like so you can bring it into the other areas of life, which is why I think this conversation is so important and why it's a perfect setup for question number 2, which is, how do you find what's fun for you?
Great question. So I want to start with a story. Not that long ago, like 8 years ago, I had such crippling anxiety in New York City that I'd be preparing to go out to dinner with people that I love, like 3 best friends, and I'd get to the door and I'd lay on the ground crying with like overwhelming anxiety. At the time, I was an actress and I was working as a nanny and at like a kids' gym teaching gymnastics. And I could feel in my body how lit up I was with the kids for whatever reason. I just had so much fun with them. I didn't have like crippling anxiety, like I didn't stutter through my words. All of these blockages that I was moving through as an adult with adults as an actress, I did not have when I was with the kids. And I wasn't really in self-help universe yet, but thank God my intuition one time while I was playing with the kids said, this is the flag in the sand, like plant the flag in the sand here. What you feel with the kiddos, that's what we're moving towards with everybody. Like this is your path to coming home to yourself. So like you said, with fun, it doesn't need to be the only way to get to the space of joy, but we all have at least one fun thing in our pocket. I find returning back to a time, and it might not have been since you were a child, but a time of childlike joy, there's so much feedback in there. I literally worked with children, so it was spoon-fed to me. But if you don't work with children, you don't hang around with animals or anything else that just has such an inherent connection to joy. Take a beat, take a breath, think back to a time where maybe you were a child and you felt joy, whether it was coloring or watching a really funny movie or swimming. I don't know. Yeah, literally anything.
Yeah.
Yes. And stand in that. And like you said, we're building that musculature. Like we get to sit in that and our body remembers and goes, oh, this is what this is. And the more that we gift ourselves sitting in that, the more that it starts to become part of our DNA, it starts to become our inherent response. Like we're building that neuroplasty, building those new neurological pathways to have fun on our radar, to have joy on our radar.
The best part about that answer for me is like taking a beat and like going back to childhood, because the question really came at people being like, when I don't drink and eat, what do I do for fun? Because we're so used to going to bars and or restaurants and having, libations or beverages and food with people, which I think is fun, but there are other ways in which we can cultivate fun in our own life that don't have to create it. And I think we try to think too hard, like, well, if I'm not going on a vacation that does XYZ, then it's not fun. And it's like, I personally love to laugh, as you know, so now I'm making memes that just crack me up. And then like, I've been watching so many Michael Che videos on YouTube, and if you look at my reel, thanks to my friend Sunny, it's just Indian and African comedians and dance videos. And I just watch them and I just laugh. And it's like, it's not some like crazy weird way of fun. It's just like fun for me is laughing. I'm gonna go laugh. And when it's time to pull off the internet, I just pull off the internet and go do whatever else, I need to do. So that actually brings me to question 3, which is we've kind of covered it, but I think it deserves its own question. And it's, how do you have fun while living a normal life, i.e. not being on vacation? So the idea, I think you kind of covered it with like coloring and things like that. But people have these ideals that if I don't do something big, it's not fun. So it's almost like, how do you accept that these things are fun?
Yeah. I mean, I have a couple ways to answer this, but we have to constantly remind ourselves that we are seeking a feeling, and feelings live within us. We are creating these feelings based on the thoughts that we are thinking, right? So I had a moment this morning. I'm doing a butt challenge where I got to work out my butt for 8 weeks straight. I'll update you all on how it pans out for me, but I was doing my painful butt workout this morning, and I caught myself dancing between sets, like doing my own music video. And I had fun doing this thing that I had told myself, thought before, got to just get through the workout. We're seeking a feeling. So use this desire for a vacation as your flag in the sand. Look at it, feel it. What feelings do you feel on vacation? Okay, I feel freedom. I feel nature, a connection to nature. I feel abundant. I don't know. That's your work. Look at the thing that you desire, pull out the feelings from it. And then your job throughout the day is to curate those feelings within yourselves. And many times, the fastest way to get there is just simple gratitude. It's so cheesy. It's so cliche, but before I went back to school for positive psychology, before I was in this universe, before I read my first self-help book, one thing I used to do all the time when I was on my way to auditions or stuck in the rain in New York City or nannying and had like 12 kids screaming in my ear, I used to pray to the powers that be and just be like, can you please send a wave of gratitude? Please, just anything, please. I just want to feel something different than what I'm feeling. I could have instead said, can you please change every infinite external force that's against me right now? But instead, I don't know how my body knew this. I instead asked to just change my feeling within myself. And then all of the external things, I didn't have to change them. I just changed my perception. Yeah. To this day, I have never not had a wave of gratitude come. Sometimes it comes 3 minutes. Sometimes it takes 45 minutes, but it is such a literal, overwhelming flush of gratitude. Like I have this very vivid memory of sitting in a playroom, like a small playroom with all of these kids screaming, and I had a headache, and I just was like, get me the F out of here. I prayed for my little gratitude. It hit me, and I was like going around to them like, oh my gosh, your face is so sweet. I love you so. Like it just was such a massive shift. But the 3 steps to these shifts are, number 1 is we have to have a willingness. And most times when we're in the funk and we're in the stink and we're just like deciding everything sucks or this is boring or whatever it is, we don't have the willingness to change. If you start with willingness, all of a sudden we're 25% there. And then the next is get clear about what you freaking want and shift. And then the third is, okay, keep practicing, keep staying there. And it's like an infinite cycle. Yeah, not everything is going to be fun, but can I say with full confidence that 99.99% of things absolutely, like in the present, if you just are staying in the present with that thing, you can find joy doing it. It's usually when we're looking at the past or we're projecting to the future where we start hitting pain. We're 99.99, unless someone's like hitting you in the face with a hammer or other horrible things that are happening literally in the present. 99.99% of the time, you are okay if you are just in the present, and you can curate joy there. And you may hate us for saying that because you don't have a willingness to feel joy in the menial or obnoxious or whatever thing you're doing, but it's true.
It is really true. And, you know, with those little moments too, when I think about like, how do you cultivate it? My best moments aren't all from like watching Michael Che videos and like coloring and things, but it's also just like your point where you're like dancing is like little stupid, goofy movements throughout the day that just crack me up. Like I don't need someone else to see, or like some comment or some joke or some inside thought. And it's like, this is how we cultivate joy. This is how we have fun, is not making it another to do, but instead working for it to become part of our being, part of the norm, which actually then brings me to question 4. And I really like this question a lot. And I'll put a little context around it is, so question 4 is, what has to happen for you to prioritize fun? And the context I want to put around it is the person who asked was saying like, I feel like I can't have fun until I do all of these adult things, you know, but the thing is all of these adult things never get done. So how do you even prioritize this?
Yeah, it's a willingness to acknowledge how essential it is. I know you're super energy geek like I am, Erica, but every feeling, every emotion that we're sitting in, it's at a specific level of energy. And sometimes the leap is way too big to go from I'm angry or I'm hurt or I'm sad all the way up to this is fun. Think of it like a ladder. If you can even get up to bored, we're moving up the ladder. When you're bored, now you have access to, okay, I kind of like this. Now you have access to, okay, this is fun. So number one, just even having a willingness to just sit in the seat of your body, of your soul throughout the day and be able to just have awareness around how you are feeling. That is step one to wanting to make this priority, because that awareness is going to drive you to want to sit in spaces that feel better. So number one. Number two, what I've been teaching clients for millions of years is there's like these tricks that you want to have in your back pocket, which they are reactive joy curation tools. And then also something that I called conscious living rituals, which is like building out just a little skeletal system for your day where you just get to inject these little moments of nurturing yourself. And again, like I know we keep saying fun, but fun, I'm more speaking about joy, which I feel like is more holistic, because joy can be lovingly staring at your pet, right? Like I'm not laughing hysterically, but that feels freaking good. Like I have joy in my soul staring at my dog across the room, right? So these conscious living rituals, start with 2 minutes in your day. 2 minutes. I am going to go and hug my kid for 2 full minutes and get so many smooches. I'm going to go send a loving text to my partner just around how incredible they are. We have to remember that when we give love, the gift is our gift, because when we are sitting in that space of love, that is when we are most tapped in and we are aligned. So we have the power to give love all day. You could go leave $1 for someone in the laundry room and be like, hi, free $1 for you. Great example, T. Like you can just, we have infinite opportunities to go love out into the world, love ourselves, stare at yourself in the mirror, go hug your kid, go pet your pet, send a text to someone. Like that, the act of loving is our own gift, because that's when we're sitting in that joy. So my recommendation to you is set up step 1 of making sure that every day you have a connection point with yourself or with someone. So you feel that love, you feel that joy, and then have in your pocket a list of like free quickies that you know can boost your mood. Like Erica was saying, watching funny videos on YouTube. If you love your plants, go around and water your plants. If you need to be in nature, yeah, go for a walk. Like all of these things take the tiniest amount of energy most times. The bigger thing that you're overcoming is your mental shit, your brain saying it's not important. We're here to tell you it is the most important. So if you're willing to allow that to be the reality, then you're just going to organically start incorporating that in your day and allowing it to be a priority.
And I just want to pull out the piece where you said it is the most important. A lot of us, we're all working to be able to feel joy. We're all working to make space for fun. We're all working to make sure that we can take a break. And it's like, you have to take it. Like
Right.
It's up to you, because you actually can't rely on other people to make you have fun. You can't rely on other people to make like joy be a part of who you are and how you show up. And it's, when I think about this, I really never took days off. I really never did that at the beginning of the entrepreneurial journey. Now I find joy all weekend. I mean, if I have to do some work, I will, but I'm going out to hike. I'm going to have conversations with friends. I am obsessed with Crazy Rich Asians right now, right? Like I'm doing these things and it feels silly. It feels like it shouldn't be a priority. But the reason I believe that we're here is to find joy, is to have, and for me, when I think about fun and play, the reason I use those words is because we don't often carve any time out to do them. And as a result, we have no idea how to even experience joy. And I think learning that feeling really matters. Like it really matters, because to go after it without knowledge of what it feels like, you just feel like you're checking more boxes. And that's like the last thing we probably want people to do.
Yeah. One of my teachers says to feel is to understand. So if you ever can't mentally get there, you got to feel it in your body first. So if you leave with one thing today, be curious, find something that feels good, whether it's a funny cat video on YouTube or you dance around to one song, gift yourself the feeling. And once you feel it, you're going to be like, oh, I get why this is important. I feel so expansive. I feel creative. I feel inspired to want to eat yummy foods that don't fuck up my hormones and make me feel anxious or angry or trying to be in alignment with what you're talking about in other ways.
Hey, I'm like,
yeah.
Yes.
Right.
So what's great was my fifth question was going to be, if people walk away with one thing from this conversation, what would it be? But it's to be curious. You already anticipated.
Yes. I have another really important point to make though. Can I add a second thing?
Yes, you can do a 5B. Go ahead.
Okay. 5B. Well, so one is be curious. Love that, E. Thank you for condensing my whole monologue. The second piece is, so I've been doing this work for many years, and after moving through some deep grief myself this year, a huge epiphany that I had was, we can't manhandle ourselves and skip over the grief or the anger or some of those other deep encompassing feelings just to always reach for joy. And in fact, they go hand in hand. And so I kind of see it as the deeper the depths that we allow ourselves to feel that grief, to feel that fear, to feel that anger, and really sit in it and cry it out or scream it out or journal it out. Which, by the way, when you don't stifle it and you actually just acknowledge it, it wants to move on so much faster. Like I've had so many times where I was bawling, and it lasts about 5 minutes and I was like, I'm bored. Okay, time to go surfing. You know what I mean? Whereas if I just stifled it, it could stay with me for months, and then it's going to pop out over here in a friendship or in my eating habits or anyway. So what I was finding on the other side of my mourning is, because I was allowing myself to just kind of mine the depths of all of my feelings and really just sit, like I see like my soul like sitting right in my body and allowing myself to feel in such an expansive way, my joy is 10 times amplified. So we're not saying go out and be like a joyful robot. We are saying that to feel is to understand, and it's okay to feel, and it's okay to identify feelings that feel freaking incredible, and then gift yourself the curation of those things in your life.
And I just have to reinforce that is that it's don't be a joyful robot. Don't be one of those like, I'm positive, I'm positive, I'm positive, I'm happy. Like that's literally the exact opposite of cultivating joy and having fun in this lifetime. It's really getting there, getting to those feelings and just not letting them overtake you, which oftentimes means seeing them, acknowledging them, and asking them to go when it's time, right? And it could be after 5 minutes of bawling. It could be after like, for me recently, like feelings will come in. I'm like, thank you for trying to support me. Right. And then it'll literally go in a minute. Cause I'm just like, I see you. I know we're having the conversation again. It's cool. I'm gonna be fine. I can just step back in to joy. And your example is perfect of like, okay, I'm bored. That's the ladder, by the way, that Tori's talking about is when you're bored with your own shit, you are headed to joy. Like it is happening for you. And we often think that that's like a terrible place to be, but it's a great place to be because it means that you're just upping your energy, upping your frequency, whatever vibration, whatever you want to call it. So, Tori, thank you for coming on the Fast Five. I so appreciate it. But before I let you go, if people want to follow you, talk to you, know more about you, how can they do that?
I guess the easiest place is just to come on over to my Instagram at Tory Dubes. Because of my great commitment to joy, I've recently blown up my whole life and am working on 9,000 different things at the same time. So come on over to Instagram. I'm there.
And aren't you reviving the podcast?
So there's lots of podcasts that you can listen to that's old. I am navigating whether I want to be super transparent about all that's happening in my life just yet, because also part of the joy experience is having discernment with who you share your stuffs with. So yeah, so podcast will come back someday. Not sure.
Well, what is the name of the podcast? Because you do have so many amazing episodes and people really love them no matter when they listen to them.
Thank you, E. The podcast is called An Excellent Example of Being Human. I've actually gone back and listened to some of my favorite interviews as like a healing mechanism for myself. And hot damn, I've got some freaking amazing human beings over there. So I do highly recommend that you go listen to the podcast too.
Okay, awesome. Tori, thank you so much for coming on and working through this with me. And you're the best. And I love you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Love you.
Bye.